Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on December 19th, 2021 at approximately 7:06 a.m. PST. I got started on something yesterday regarding Christmas and regarding people understanding that regardless of what your religion is, regardless of what your spiritual path, it is time for people to realize we are all, number one, on the same line. We're on the same world. We are essentially the same. Yes, we've got different levels of different ways of looking at things. We've got different languages. People call God by various names or by whatever their higher power is, they call by various names. They believe in different things regarding Santa Claus. Okay, this is all very real. Okay, now you can argue the point if you want, and you certainly don't have to believe me. Okay, do your own research. I am not the authority on everything. Matter of fact, quite frankly, I'm not the authority on anything in my eyes. Some people will argue the point where it comes to the aliens, the off-worlders. But the reality is, in my eyes, yes, I'm a specialist in certain fields, but I'm certainly not an expert. Now, something hit me yesterday really, really badly. I've mentioned the fact that I am empathic. I feel what's going on in the planet. This is why I stay away from people. Now, I mean, in all fairness, you don't have to believe that either. But here is enough what you don't have to believe. Okay. The one question I keep seeing asked is a very simple one, and I've stayed out of the ballpark as much as I can. But it has now become a very critical problem in my eyes. One that is going to have long-reaching and extremely long-lasting effects. Okay, people keep asking me, like they ask me, I should, well, they do. By the way, this is a live recording. So what happens here is when I get to the end of the recording, I double check the date, make sure it is what it is, that I got the date right. Then I post it as is. I do not go back and edit anything. So hiccups, stumbles, anything along that line, that's what you're going to get. But understand, if you ever meet me in person or you ever talk to me on Skype or on Messenger, you're going to find the same thing. I would go off in various different directions. I've got multiple things going through my head at the same time. The big topic I'm looking at today, okay, the short topics are this. I returned to this world for one purpose, okay, one primary purpose. And that is to pass on a simple message to people. Working together, we can make this a better world for most people. Okay, now, a couple of real short notes. The big project from my standpoint is this little project here. Okay, this story I started writing when I was in grade 10. Okay, Yldrbac, the birth of the wolf pack. Now, the Yldrbacian Chronicles are actually a 12-volume set. I've broken it down into 12 volumes to cover a lot, and I'm not going into any more detail on that right now. Couple of things we have to understand, or that I think really appreciate if you understand, or at least accept. Number one, in order for civilization to exist, we have to have a government in place. Now, you may not agree with what they're doing. Lord knows I got my arguments with what they're up to. Okay, but governments are necessary. So, the reality is, we've got a government. Okay, work with what you've got. Writing off a government, all that does is create chaos until, and I know there's talk all over the place, all over the world, multiple countries. We don't like our government. We want to overthrow it. We want to replace it. Well, get it straight. What you get when you throw a government out the window is you get chaos until somebody else steps up and takes over and puts another government in place. This said, governments are necessary, as are the multiple different religions that we've got, the multiple different spiritual paths. Again, you can deny God, you can deny what you will, you can believe what you will, that's your call. but they are here, they are necessary. In my opinion, the whole issue between religion and science, which people have multiple times told me are incompatible, here's my outlook on it. And this is strictly my opinion. Religion explains the inexplicable until science can figure it out. Okay. Now, that being said, religion or spirituality and science are very compatible and actually mutually dependent, because it's the spirituality that gets people to question what's going on. It's the science that works out how to explain it. And then it's people that, taking this science to heart, figure out how to alter things. Now, the reality of life is that life itself, and nature itself, is an interesting setup. That's the other thing that we have in common, by the way. We all live on the same planet. Now, the thing people keep asking me about, okay, when is this whole COVID thing going to end? Well, here's when it ends. Number one, when people figure out that, number one, first and foremost, COVID doesn't care who you are. It does not care about your bank account. It does not care about special needs. It does not care about where you live. It doesn't care. And when people figure out that, let's start with the obvious issue. A mask is a piece of cloth. Does it actually stop the virus? There's a whole lot of argument on both sides. My personal opinion has always been, if it does not stop oxygen, it will not stop the virus. And if it does stop oxygen, it won't matter if it stops the virus. Okay. Now, where it comes to the vaccinations, where it comes to COVID itself, I have not personally noticed any functional difference, except a whole lot of statistics that point in favor of it, which are, by the way, jacked all over the place. Because if you're only taking a sample of the ill, you can make statistics say whatever you please. Point in fact, if you watch the commercials and you watch the toothpaste commercials, many times I've seen commercials state 80% of whichever of people recommend 80% of whichever dentist recommend this particular type of toothpaste. That came out really bad. 80% of dentists recommend this type of toothpaste. Now that sounds great. 80%. Okay, well, what they actually say is 4 out of 5 dentists, which is 80%. Okay, don't take my word for it, check your own math. But if 80% of dentists recommend one particular type of toothpaste, that sounds fantastic. And it's a real good reason to go buy it. But if you had to check 100 people to find those 4, all of a sudden your percentages drop from 80% to 4%. Okay, now given the number of toothpaste that I've personally seen, and I don't have cable, but bearing in mind the number of toothpaste commercials that I've seen that have said 80% of dentists recommended, okay, 4% is more likely. But I can take, using that same idea, using that idea of taking a sample group, I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that 80% of the time when you flip a coin, that you're going to end up, that you will have that coin land on its edge. Okay, now I can prove this statistically. Now, granted, I'm going to have to take a lot more flipping of the coin. Okay, let's say it takes me 1,000,000 times to flipping a coin to get it to land on its edge. Okay, and I only take for the 4 that land on its head, on its edge, and 1 that doesn't. I've got 80% of the times you flip your coin, it lands on its edge. Now, the reality is, I flipped a lot of coins in my life, and I've never seen one land. Okay, now understanding that I'm 58 years old right now. Okay, and I don't spend my entire life flipping coins. Okay, the odds of my actually seeing it happen are pretty limited. But with that same idea in mind, over the last 2 years, roughly, okay, now I saw what was coming, and you don't have to take my word for it. I don't care. Okay, I really don't. I'm not here to prove what I'm saying. I'm here to let you know that, look, this whole COVID thing comes to an end when people realize how much money you've got, what position you hold in life, what your career is, whether you're special needs or whether you're not. The virus doesn't care. Okay. And until that happens, it's going to continue. Because here's the thing. Every other day we're coming up with new COVID variants. Okay. Well, of course we're coming up with new COVID variants. And if people were to pay more attention to the genetic modification that is taking place in the human body right now, you'd realize that the human body is continually going through modification, through mutation, if you will. Okay, mankind is not going to outrun COVID. Eventually, they'll get it through their head that COVID is an illness. It is a dangerous illness. It is a problematic illness. But it's an illness that could care less where you live. It has no more interest in your pocketbook than the virus and than a fire or any natural disaster has. You know, if a tick is coming into your house, a tick will not check to see whether or not you've got enough money in your bank. It will check to see if you've got animals in there, because it usually comes in with them, I think. But the virus itself does not care. And these geniuses that are saying, oh, because I've got money, I'm immune to this illness. Well, I got news for you. I don't have money. And I haven't had a common cold or a common flu in over a quarter of a century, which means over half my life. Okay, now granted, I started off on a rough run, but the virus does not care. Okay, now people keep beaking off about freedom of choice, and you do have it. You have free will, but that goes two ways. If you don't desire to wear a mask, okay, then take into consideration, or if you don't desire to get the virus, the antivirus, which personally I agree with you on, and that's my personal opinion. My own kids have both gotten vaccinated. That's their choice. Well, one is about to get a second. Okay. So, am I against the vaccine? No. Am I against the vaccine for me personally? You bet your bottom dollar I am. Okay. The mask, on the other hand, if you don't want to wear a mask, okay, if you feel it's your right not to, it's absolutely your right not to. But get it through your head. The people that want to wear the mask, the businesses that have the sign on their front door, okay, or that when the health authority says you got to wear a mask here, okay, the reality is you're going to have to look at that. Now, it may get to the stupid point where they start telling you got to wear a mask inside your house. The moment they do that, you've gone way overboard. They've already gone overboard, in my opinion. Okay, not with the mask. The mask, they say you've got to wear it out. You've got to wear it if you're going into a building. I don't personally see a problem with this. Okay, I carry a mask in my pocket all the time. Okay, because there are businesses that say it. But to me, it really boils down to this. You go to a business, and the business says, no shirt, no shoes, no service. Nobody complains. Well, the new reality is no shirt, no shoes, no mask, no service. Get over it. If you don't want to wear one, don't go there. But get it through your head that this idea of running up to people and tearing their mask off saying you don't have to wear this, that's not your call. How would you like it if people started holding you down and putting a mask on you? Probably not that well. So get it right. If you've got the freedom of choice not to wear the mask, other people have a choice to wear it. Okay, you don't want to wear it? Don't go there. Okay. Now the vaccine takes it another step because now you're dealing with people's personal body. And there is not a way, as near as I can figure, the whole thing with COVID will come to an end at some point. Okay. The real threat to it, in my opinion, and I am not a medical doctor, so this is simply my opinion. Okay. Is the real threat to COVID ended about 6 months ago. But the stupidity that people are propagating at this point, I'm expecting to continue for another decade. I'm going to be really happy if people get it through their head that this is going completely offline. Okay. The virus does not care how much money you've got. The fact that, the virus doesn't care about what the border is. In case you hadn't noticed, the virus is somewhat airborne. No, they're not telling you this. Okay. I warned people before that when this first thing started, it was going to mutate out of control. Now, how it got started, I've got my own views on. And just to be clear, I know somebody came forward and said we made it. In my opinion, that's a load. I have no doubt that they tried to weaponize something, but in my opinion, the way this whole thing started was mankind's greed in clear-cutting ancient forests, in fracturing the Earth's crust, in digging deep into the ancient ice. Okay, released released viruses. I don't know which word is right, but released viruses into the atmosphere that they discovered. Okay, and then mankind in at least 3 different countries, in my opinion, the most likely, and you're going to love me for this. No, you won't. Canada, U.S., and China, in my opinion, were all trying to weaponize it. And yes, I did put those 3. My opinion, I've got nothing solid to work with. But what I am certain of is they were all involved in it. That they were all involved in probably a number of other countries. Okay. But do understand, whichever country was involved doesn't matter. They were trying to weaponize it in my eyes. I have no question it got out in China. I don't argue that point. But they are not the only ones that were working on it. Okay. And therefore, this stupidity, and it's just blatant stupidity, to point the finger at China and go, they're the problem, is absolutely stupid. There is no functional reason for it. Who cares if somebody came out and said, this is what we did? I want recognition. I want my 15 minutes of fame. I don't care why they claimed what they did, or if they claimed it. For all I know, considering I don't watch the news, for all I know, that could have been just a propaganda thing done by somebody else. And no, I don't blame the multimedia. I've covered that before. This whole thing has gotten out of hand because of social media. That means because of you people. You're all equally responsible for continuing this thing. And when you people figure out that your income, your station in life, your job, whether you're special needs, whether you're not, doesn't matter. Okay. The reality of it is the virus does not care. Okay, now I have a very complicated setup around me. Have I gotten vaccinated myself? No. Am I getting vaccinated? Not unless it becomes absolutely mandatory by law. If it becomes mandatory by law, then yeah, I'm going to be backed into a corner. Until then, I will find ways around it. My kids, they've got their own life. They've got their own choice. I was asked by their mother if I had a problem with them getting vaccinated. I went, no. They're not me. I have a problem with me getting vaccinated. Okay. I have a problem with me doing it. The mask, I've never seen a point to it, but people have said, you got to wear a mask going into these businesses. That's what I do. The fact that I'm extremely reclusive and getting a whole lot more so, okay, is, so the timing is a little off, okay, in as much as when all of this started, it got worse. For me, the issue of leaving the house. I already had problems getting out of the house and going and socializing with people. But the reality is, when they came out with this whole idea of the virus being this deadly thing, which it is, by the way, it's a very deadly thing. But when they came out with this whole idea of you can't go doing this and that and the other thing, I don't like to cook. So I was going out, I was spending $300 to $400 a month on restaurants because I don't like to cook. Okay. When they came out with the double vaccination and said, you've got to be vaccinated to get into the building, it saved me a small fortune. Okay. $300 to $400 a month, by the way. But here's the kicker. It didn't actually save me any money, but it certainly stopped me from going out. So I quit. It was just that simple. I quit going out. Did I blame the restaurant? No, as a matter of fact, I said goodbye to them when I walked out the last time. I said goodbye. I'll see you when this is all over. Assuming, of course, they're still in existence. At this point, they're still doing well enough. But this absolute stupidity that every time you turn around, there's a new virus. Here's a vaccine that'll protect you. Oh, it's not good enough. We need a booster shot. Okay, I haven't had a booster shot in my, I haven't bothered going to a doctor for a shot. I don't get the flu medication. And yes, COVID is a lot worse than the flu. Okay. I also don't get regular treatments for cancer that I don't have. Okay. I don't have cancer. I'm not going for cancer treatments. I don't have COVID. I'm not preempting COVID. I'm not going around people because here's the thing with viruses. I'm not a medical doctor. I've made that clear. But the reality is, if you keep your distance from people, a virus can't get to you. Except for one little detail. The dang thing has gone airborne. And that's what they're not telling you. It is mutating so fast they haven't got a prayer about running it, but your body does. Okay. And by the way, when we're talking about prayer, okay, you don't have to go to a mega church in order to pray. You don't have to do it. Okay, and I've talked about my whole idea on charity and what have you. But if you believe in God, if you believe in the Bible, it tells you right in the Bible, don't ask me where. Never have been able to quote passages. Okay, but it tells you right in the Bible, wherefore two or more are gathered in my name, there I am. Okay, well, two or more means you and whoever you call God. Okay, there's your two. Okay, if you want to keep it to the corporeals, you and one other person. You can sit down if you feel you require somebody around you. You can sit down, social, and when we talk about social distancing, okay, this idea, I don't know if you've noticed, but viruses don't actually measure distance in feet. That'd be like you measuring distance in hundreds of thousands of miles. Okay, they just don't do it. But keep a comfortable, this whole idea of a 3-foot web, a 3-foot personal space area. Basically the idea, take your arms, put them out at full length, tip to tip. If you can't touch somebody, there's social distance. Okay, it's a great way to figure it out in my eyes. Works like a charm. So does distancing help? Absolutely. Does keeping an eye on your diet, keeping an eye on your health, on your personal health help? Absolutely. But I will tell you this. If your blood pressure is high, mine doesn't necessarily have to be. Okay, if you're allergic to peanuts, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm not. Lord knows I've eaten enough of them. Okay, So this thing that you have to have a vaccine for it to work, you do have to have a vaccine for the vaccine to have a prayer of working on you. But I like the one thing that was put on social media the one day. Okay, that was that they had severe allergies, and their Claritin used to work, right? But now because everybody isn't using Claritin, their Claritin doesn't work. That much as that was comical, that's what people seem to think with the virus. The reality is that your body, in my opinion, is what's going to defeat this. It's what's going to turn it around. Now, am I saying you shouldn't get the virus? The vaccine? Absolutely not. In my opinion, if you desire the thing, absolutely get it. Okay, but it doesn't stop until people realize that your income, your personal health, okay, in other words, whether all of your parts and faculties are working properly, whether they all work or whether they all don't work, has no bearing on whether or not the virus will affect you or whether you will carry the virus. It's got no bearing. And when people realize this is the case, that's when things start to turn around. The only people benefiting, in my opinion, from all the stipulations that are now being in place are the ones that have money. The same thing happened centuries ago. Okay, centuries ago, the people that benefited were the ones that had money. Okay, they were not the poor. Okay, they were not the compliant. They were the ones that had the money and were well placed in the right governments. That's the only people that seem to benefit. Okay, and the reality of it is, from my standpoint, that when people realize that the virus does not care who you are, it doesn't care whether you're a superstar or whether you're a nobody. It doesn't care if you're a super athlete or an invalid. Okay. Now, I don't like the word invalid for one reason. Okay. If you break it down, it says invalid. There is not a soul on the planet that is less important than the next. Okay. Hence my sign in the back. I am worth it. Yes, as people have told me, I am opinionated. Okay, and I got thinking about it the other day, and the biggest problem I run into, the biggest conflict I run into up here, is I've taken a look at the way I look at the world, the way that I talk about the world, and there are two terms that fit very nicely. Bear in mind, I'm obviously very outspoken. Absolutely. Am I opinionated? You bet. Okay. Am I reclusive? Talk to anybody that knows me. I don't leave the house much. I also don't like hair on my face, which sounds a little odd. I've got a beard, sort of. That's just because I'm lazy. Anyway, I am very opinionated. Very, very, this is me. Okay. But that said, do I like the way people treat each other? I think it's absolutely appalling. Absolutely appalling. Okay. Do I go out of my way to help people? You bet. Okay. I'll buy people groceries when I've got a little extra money. I've got a tendency of just giving people money just because. So the terms that fit the best from my standpoint, and you can look them up yourself, misanthropic and philanthropist. Well, having a misanthropic and philanthropist is a bit twisted when you look up the definitions, and I'll leave that to you. I'm going to bring this to a close, and until tomorrow, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.